Recording in progress.
6:01. And do we have anyone from the audience on?
We have Lauren Herman.
Okay, if you have any questions, just raise your digital hand and
Lauren's hand is raised to Jay. Frank, can we elevate her? And we just ask if you're here for public comment, you turn on your camera and kind of share with us what street you live on and share with us what you have.
Hi, thank you so much. I just have a couple of questions. My name is Lauren Herman. I'm at 10 Ginn Road. Two-part question for the group. It was stated in a previous meeting that the Mystic building will not exist in 5 years, and I want to know what the plan is for that. And then question two is, I understand that the space in McCall, formerly occupied by the youth center, is vacant, and I wanted to know what is the plan for bringing a youth center back to Winchester? Thank you.
Chris, those are probably school committee questions.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
Yeah.
what I would say, I mean, we never have too many people here for public comment. So Lauren, I appreciate your questions tonight. Public comment's not typically a back and forth. I don't think the EFPBC has really talked much about Mystic. You may be referring to a recent school committee meeting about Mystic. But the future of the Mystic School is going to be determined by the outcome of our school facilities master plan that was just funded by town meeting a few months ago. And we will be looking at the future of that building and including whether it stays as is or if we envision something else. It's here today. It's here tomorrow. We need it today. We need it tomorrow. We need it in the next 2 or 3 years. So hard for anybody to kind of predict what the future of Mystic is. And then just with respect to the youth center, that space was gutted and renovated as part of phase 1 of the McCall expansion, maybe a year or two before COVID. So those are our classrooms today. I know our superintendent's with us right now. There were some dips in enrollment, of course, associated with COVID. And we haven't really kind of made this terribly public yet, but I think we'll be talking about it more in the next few weeks. Some of our housing projects are certainly bearing fruit. Frank and I were just reviewing these numbers last week. The River Street housing project, which we predicted would bring between 30 and 35 elementary kids into the district, is based on their current lease up rate. Looks like they're going to shoot right through that. They're going to exceed that high watermark. And we are getting kids at high school and middle school as well. So it's out of my sort of wheelhouse to talk about enrollment. It's probably more appropriate for a school committee meeting, but so anyway, the youth center used to occupy some big open space with pool tables and so forth. That was all gutted for the renovation and to add classrooms at the Mystic School. But we would certainly look into a lot of your questions, including kind of space utilization at McCall in the master plan. And I think the last thing I would say is, as part of the programming exercise in the master plan, if there are community interests or community needs. So you've raised, for instance, the youth center. Another example is preschool, Lauren. So, we have a preschool program at Lynch. We still have a wait list. We will be talking about whether or not we should have a preschool at another school. So it's kind of an opportunity to think big. So my expectation is the youth center would absolutely come up as part of the conversation during the master plan. I'm just not sure anybody has any sort of brilliant answers beyond that, right now. That's my speech, Jay.
From the school committee, right?
Yeah, that was with my school committee hat on.
There you go.
And with every passing second, Frank Hackett gives up his right to add any other remarks.
I would have probably ended where you started, that it's really a school committee matter, and that we have a master facilities plan process will be starting soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else on? No.
Just WinCam. I think that's it.
All right. Move on to the meeting minutes. We have August 12th, which came out last week, and then the 26th, which came out this morning, Don, correct?
That's correct,
And
yes.
they sent a few things back, so I don't know if everyone's had a chance to read both of them.
I got some good comments from Richard Rohan on, I think it was the 26th. So
I couldn't see Rich's comments, obviously, because open meeting law, but if he made comments that you thought were good and you've edited.
it was just
I'm-
correcting and cleaning up some of the language, simplifying things
Yeah.
and making things clearer. I mean, there was nothing drastic. I'll send you a copy of
No, I was just going to say, Rich goes over everything with a fine tooth
Yeah,
comb.
he
So
does.
if
Thank
it's
you.
good- If it's good
Thank
for
you,
you and
Richard.
Rich, yeah, if it's good for you and Rich, it's good for me.
Anyone want to make a motion?
And real quick though, I think Geeta had some comments late today.
She did.
I haven't had a
Oh.
chance to see those though.
Yep.
I
Done.
didn't get those because I was traveling today if they came in. So maybe we should just postpone to the next meeting.
Want to do the 12th only? Is everyone okay with the 12th to get that out of the way?
That's been out for over a week. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the EFPBC minutes from the 12th as amended.
Thank you.
Second. I'll second it.
Okay, we'll go Lisa. All right, roll call. Frank?
Aye.
Lisa already did. Brendan?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Geetha?
Aye.
And John is not here. Colleen?
I wasn't there, so should
Oh,
I
you-
abstain?
No, you should stay in, yeah, if you weren't
Okay.
on it. Okay, thank you. Mark?
Aye.
Richard?
Yes.
Don?
Aye. Yes. Go
Yep.
ahead.
Emily?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. New Lynch. Andy, you taking this, the updates?
Yes.
All right,
I'll share my screen. All right. So let me start with the monthly report for August. Can you guys see my screen? Just checking.
yes,
Okay. All right, so a lot of progress has happened in August. In August, we have a manpower between 50 to 70, as you can see in the backup for the weekly report. So the site work, utility work, we still have the remaining underground electrical plumbing at area C that needs to be done. I checked with Mark this morning. I think we just backfilled the area C, so we're getting ready for pouring that last piece of the slab on grade for area C on Monday. So right now we're getting prep for the rebar and all the prep that we need for the slab on grade, the last section of area C. Remaining PV canopy footing, that's going to happen this month in September. Footing and foundation work, those are completed. Structural steel, we still have some spray fireproofing to be done on the second floor. Area A is completed. B is, I think as of right now, we completed B on the second floor. We're continuing on that area C. Structural steel detailing, we still have some minor detailing work like at the brows and some welding that they need to be done this month. So we're targeting to finish all the detailing in September. Miss Meadow, once we finish with all the slab on grade pour next week, then we'll start doing the staircase for that. As I mentioned, slab on deck, those are all completed. And then following the slab on grade next Monday, we're gonna start that pour. Exterior envelope, the CMU blocking at the gym area, that area is completed. We're still working toward the kitchen area, try to finish that up soon. So drywall, they continue with the cold form metal framing on the exterior sheathing on the north side, and we're gonna work clockwise around the building. And then the window sample, that should be coming between this week and next week. We're expecting that soon. MEP roughing, we started the roughing on the ductwork on the third floor already. And I'll show you some pictures shortly. And then, so that will follow, to the second and then to the first floor. Fireproofing, as I mentioned, we're still targeting to finish that soon. We continue with the UTS testing, soil compaction, concrete testing, and rebar testing that's ongoing, is every day on site right now. One critical item I want to bring up, I think we brought this up, is the transformer. So right now, Eversource, they do not allow us to make any commitment on the transformer until the switchgear is completed. So we're targeting the switchgear to be done by mid-October. So by mid-October, when that is completed, we can put the order in for the transformer by, right now we're targeting November 15 to get that order. But this is still the critical item. August milestone, we finished with all the main steel erection, the detailing is still ongoing. Try to wrap the detailing up this month in September. CMU blocking, we completed at the gym. We're still working in the cafeteria and the kitchen area. Testing of the water line, that has been completed. We tested and put in chlorination in there. So that's been done. The roofing on the higher roof, those are completed. We still have some like the lower roof area and the area on the stair. Those need some minor work. We'll continue on with the cold form metal framing and the sheathing on the exterior envelope. As I mentioned, area A and area B slap on grade are completed. In milestone for September, we try to finish. Our target is try to finish the exterior framing and finish the sheathing, and then the AVB will follow, and then try to target all the slap on grade. That should be done next week. Structural steel detailing, we try to finish that in September as well, and also the steel fireproofing, target to finish that this month as well. Roughing, that will be, they just started the rough MEP and fire protection, so that will be going on for a couple months. Grading on this, right now we're prepping for the grading on the site to do the binder course. Our target is to at least do a binder course of the site before the winter, so we don't have any issue with snow plowing. So key meeting, we continue to have our weekly OAC meeting every Thursday. Another lead meeting is tomorrow at 12:30. And, right now we're having the EFPBC, which I have September 9th. MSBA site visit, we have one for September 19th. And we have the commissioning agent coming to visit the site this Thursday. And we're going to have an MEP kickoff meeting with the subcontractor on site. Here are some key delivery dates with the long lead item. So we have the the rooftop unit. They're right now already shipped to the storage area. They got shipped in June, and we're targeting to get start the curbing in like September, and then October. Those will be delivered and get installation. The automatic transfer switch. This is for the switch gear and for the generator. That's being shipped 2 weeks ago. In August, that should be on site soon. Switchboard, that we're targeting to get that shipped in the end of October. The generator, mid-November is where they're going to start shipping. Window right now we have around in December. That's the actual window, not the mock-up. So I think the brake builder will be prepping for the winter condition. They will board up the window opening until we have the windows. Pedestrian bridge, that right now the submittal is under review. So once that is approved, we're targeting to get that approved this month. Once that is approved, the shipping date will be 6 months from the approval. So if we get that approved by the end of the month, then we should have the bridge starting to ship in the spring. Schedule as of right now, we're still targeting for June 27. We're still on track for substantial completion. Our target is to get the furniture in July of 2025 and then move the teacher in August of 2025. Project budget, we're still on budget. As of last month, we're up to change order 3. And we're working on change order 4. That will probably be presented next month. We're still on target for MBE, WBE goal. There's no safety issue on site. We've been tracking that. So there's no issue with the neighbor on delivery or any noise complaint. So here's some progress photo. As I mentioned, the high roof is completed, area A, B, and C. And then structural steel detailing work. This is the area that we're still working on like minor detailing work that's still ongoing. We're still targeting to finish that in September. This is the back of house, the kitchen area that I mentioned that we're nearing completion. We're still working on the CMU work at this area. This is the gym area. CMU work here is completed. So this is the slab on grade at area A that happened in August. This is the pour that happened. Also in area B, another pour that happened already. It's completed. Exterior framing, as you can see here, is still continuing on the second floor on C area, working, as I mentioned, clockwise around the building. So they're doing a rough electrical on the 3rd floor here in this picture. And also you see all those hanger that's already started happening on the 3rd floor down. And then we started the ductwork in August on the 3rd floor, heading to the 2nd floor soon. So we get some prefabricated plumbing assembly that's already being installed for the bathrooms area. This is being delivered to the 2nd floor. And here's a picture of the progress from the south looking into the north. As you can see on the upper floor, we already started the sheathing, exterior framing is happening. And then from the north side looking to the south where the gym area is, we already have the upper floor sheathing done on area B. And as I mentioned, we're going to be working clockwise, so it's going to go to C and around the perimeter. Financial was still right on budget. As of right now, we still have remaining $6.6 million total contingency. Schedule, we included the brake builder latest schedule, July. I'm not going to go into every detail. As I mentioned, we're still on target. We are still targeting for June 26th substantial completion date. And so right now we're targeting final inspection at end of May, beginning of June for that. And substantial completion is targeting for June 26th. And then furniture will be delivered toward the end of June. We're going to get that installed and finished in July 2025. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be moving the teacher in targeting August 2025 for school opening for fall of 2025. We included our weekly report. As I mentioned earlier, our manpower in August was between 50 to 70. And we have some more, progress picture if you might want to review that. This is on the Google Drive. And as of today, because we started the MEP work in September, our manpower this week and last week were like around 100. So that has been increased tremendously, and it's going to continue on for the next 6 months. So there are more picture, more progress photo if you guys want to see the detail. And then we have, our submittal RFI log at the end, just to show the progress. Next, I want to show our presentation. Actually, any question before I move on to the presentation?
I have, before Geetha, two things we want to hit, Andy. So at some point, I know we're tight for schedule tonight, but maybe the next meeting, we can go over some change orders in depth. We're starting to creep on some of them, and some of them aren't making too much sense. So I know there's a lot of questions. Another item is to see if once the slab on grade is done, if we can get a site visit by the committee before it really starts getting too dark in the afternoon, when you feel it's safe. And then I think we got Geetha, Todd, and then Brendan. You have some updates on the transformer, right?
I do.
Let's go in order. Let Geetha go, Todd, and then Brendan can jump in. Go ahead, Geetha.
Yeah, Jay, you read my mind. I guess my question, I was just starting a couple of questions. In the monthly report, do we also provide the proposed change orders? And I guess, contingency balance is mentioned, but I was just wondering whether we know the running balance, accounting all the proposed change orders, and what is the mechanism that we have that we would catch up with the proposed change order becomes the change order. I
So
guess
that's why I want to have a more in-depth. I know we're tight tonight and we're moving in the high school. So the next Lynch meeting, we have to spend a lot on change orders to get a handle on them.
Can I
We have to
see
spend
like
some time.
several items have been already taken place and still waiting as a PCOs, and just wondering. The other question, I guess we mentioned the pedestrian bridge. Where do we stand on the Chapter 91 permitting? Do we have any update after the permit application submitted? Any concern ordering the bridge and not knowing where we stand on the permitting?
I haven't heard anything about the status of the Chapter 91. We typically don't hear anything from them.
Yeah. No correspondence, nothing at all, Meg, after submitting? Nothing?
No, nothing.
And you mentioned the binder course is taking place and whatnot, so just wondering, how could we get something about it?
Binder course is for the site. It's not the bridge.
Yeah. I mean, the site work is linking to the pedestrian bridge, I guess, right? Would you look at it that way too?
Chapter 91 license is only for the bridge.
Right. I'm just saying.
The waterway. Yeah.
Like overlapping areas or something, with the bridge work.
No, the binder course is just for the on the site only, it's not near the bridge. So we're still waiting for that permitting on Chapter 91.
I can try to check in with them, but it's usually not. I've never had great success. They'll just tell me it's you.
All right, I guess I would just, a good picture. So like Jay said, it would be nice to visit the site to see the slab on grade. I was just thinking of on Monday maybe, but all right, that's all.
Yeah, once they feel it's safe, it's up to them to let us go on. But we need to get in there. Everyone wants to get a good feel for it.
Yeah, we need to get 10 power energized so that there's some lighting in there.
Lights.
So once that's done, then it would be safer to be in there.
Okay.
Right, and we'll try to target it before the November, December, weather conditions as well. We don't want everybody coming on site and freezing either. So we'll keep you guys posted, work with Brate Builders to see when they anticipate in a good time. Maybe we do a site visit prior to one of our scheduled EFPBC meetings, something to that nature.
All right. Thank you.
Brendan, you want to give us an update?
Sure. I think Todd was up next, but
Yeah, my question
I'll
was
defer
the
to Todd.
transformer, whether or not we knew what the lead time was from utility once it's approved. And my second question to Andy was, I couldn't tell from the photos whether the ductwork ends were being covered to minimize the amount of cleaning that will be necessary at the end. That was it.
Andy, you want to answer that first?
Sorry, I can chime in there. Sorry, I was
Go ahead, Mark.
the mute button. Yeah, the ducts are actually being shipped sealed already, and they're leaving those seals on and removing them as they mate the surfaces together. So the exposed ends are staying covered.
Thanks.
Yep.
So I have some good news on the transformer. I reached out to a friend. Our transformer has been put aside for us. It's in the Somerville yard, down on Linwood Street in Somerville. And as soon as we can get the pad poured and set and inspected by Eversource, I can coordinate the delivery of the transformer, which I would suggest as soon as possible so it doesn't disappear and go to another project.
So, Brendan, are you saying all they need done is the pad poured, or do they need
Well, we'd want the primary and secondary conduits obviously leaving the pad, but once the pad is poured, I feel pretty confident I can coerce them into getting that thing delivered and set on the pad, which would be great.
Okay. Well, I've reached out to Brait. We'll see what they can do with their schedule, but they've been
Okay.
November's been pretty much the date that they've always had for when they would be ready to receive it. So
Okay. The good news is we have one set aside for us for this project.
great.
So as of last week, they mentioned that once they pour that last piece of the slab on grade, they will pour the transformer pad. So I'm targeting next Monday when they start pouring that Monday, Tuesday. They will probably pour that transformer pad next week.
Great.
Yep. Any more questions?
Don't see anything, Andy. Nope. Let's continue on.
Okay. So I mentioned on the August update, a lot of these I already mentioned them in my monthly report, like the underground plumbing and electrical that's for A and B that's been completed. C, we finished that last week. They're already backfilled. That's already inspected, passed by the plumbing inspector and the electrical. So that's been we backfill that, getting ready for next week's pour. Roof insulation that's completed. Water line has been tested, chlorinated. Gymnasium CMU work that's getting close to finish and working at the kitchen area. The September, we're still continuing on with the framing work. Try to finish that slab on grade. All slab on deck has been completed. Steel work, detailing, targeting to finish that in September. Same thing with the fireproofing. And then, as you saw in my recent picture, that the rough plumbing, the prefabricated plumbing for the bathroom has been delivered on the second floor. So they're going to work on that soon, installing that. Some area of focus here is, try to finish the steel work, the underground plumbing that's completed. The subgrade stone AVB work for the slab on grade that's happening this week, getting ready for next week's pour. Framing, exterior work that's ongoing. And then try to finish the fireproofing, and then also try to get the mock-up done as well. The window mock-up should be on site anytime between this week and next week. So right now we're looking at for the FF&E, the furniture. We already started to look into the getting the faculty for the test furniture. So we're targeting to buy out the furniture by the end of this year, like in December. So we're going to have a package out on the street for the FF&E procurement. So that way we can get that delivered in July 2025. Again, the Eversource transformer is still a critical item. Cash flow wise, let me see if I can zoom in the cash flow. So right now, we're catching up on the cash flow. As I mentioned, we have about right now 100 guy on site. It's going to be between 100 to 130. Once we finish that slab on grade, then you're going to see more manpower, especially on the MEP rough. As I mentioned, we still have about $6.6 million in contingency between owner and construction contingency. Again, we'll be concentrating more, talk about more on the PCO next month to see, you know, the pending PCO, anything that we're still reviewing, and then we'll try to review the change order number 4 next month. Construction progress, as I mentioned this earlier, you know, just I'm not going to repeat like some of the work that's already been done in the roof. Let's continue with the framing. MSBA site visit is scheduled for September 19. So September, October work, try to finish the slab on grade, continue on with exterior framing and sheathing, try to finish that, and then working on the exterior envelope, like metal panels, brickwork. That's going to happen starting probably in October. Targeting to finish steel detailing this month, fireproofing again, and then we'll start the staircase work when we're done with the slab on grade. We will begin the brickwork probably toward the end of this month. Brick builder, they getting ready for temporary heating for the masonry. Try to keep the temperature for 50 degrees. So we already start planning for that temporary heating. We will continue on with MEP roughing, starting from the upper floor down, and then prep for the binder grade before get that pour before the winter. November, December work. We will try to finish the building envelope. That's including, you know, like the brickwork and some of the metal panel work, but that's probably going to still happening and then maybe into the winter. So as I mentioned, curtain wall window, that's not going to be delivered until December 20th. So we will be working to that in the winter. And complete the site PV footing, the pier, that's going to happen next month. When I say next month, this is September. We're going to start that in September, continue on with the work. This is a picture of the, oops, sorry about that. The slab on grade at area A, this is the wet here. Slab on grade on area B, this is completed, both area. Another picture of the CMU at the gym, and then another picture at the roof, the high roof that's completed. Again, this is the picture of that rough electrical work and the duct work here on the upper floor, second and third floor. Again, another picture from the south side looking at the north side. As you can see, the exterior framing, the sheeting on the upper floor. Another picture from the gym area looking north. I mean, from the north looking south. Sheeting is complete here at area B, upper floor. And then I want to share like a time lapse. So this is the area that I mentioned for the binder that we're planning to get this binder course October, November timeline. As you can see, they're finishing up the roof. toward the end of August. Framing work. So yeah, we just finished this underground plumbing and electrical area. As you can see in the picture, you see those pipe sticking up. Those are the underground plumbing that's just been completed. And we already backfill and get ready to pour this area C. I think that's about it for our presentation. Chris, you have a
Quick
question?
question, Andy. What's the plan we have for the protection of the footings and slab that are not below the frost depth for the winter months? I guess you were talking about November, December. Thought I'll just ask.
So ask your
Did you-
question again, Geeta. For the
What's the plan
protection?
that we have for the protection of the footings and slab during the winter months that are not below the frost depth? Because you were talking about November, December. I thought I'll ask. You know, the winter protection.
Shouldn't be any.
I shouldn't be able to. They already
Yeah.
backfill. They already
Footings are
backfill.
done.
But not ever, interior ones are not below the frost depth, right? Interior footing, they're not below 4 feet.
No, we already backfill. This is the slap on grade. This is
Now the exterior ones are below 4 feet, right? This is, the interior ones are not below the frost depth. The building won't be heated. Right?
I'm not sure of your question, Chris Shockey. Are you,
Building
I think-
about 10 feet.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, if they need, they'll temp heat it. So that should
Yeah.
help. And but yeah, there's slab on grade, so that'll help, right? That'll protect it. And then they'll have temp heat as they need to.
I guess so. I would put it as a question. I mean, not exterior footings, I agree. They're below the 4 feet and they're backfilled, but the interior one.
Maybe we'll follow
Just
up on
check.
that.
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, Geeta, I think that's a good question. Send it by email and we'll get the engineer and we can get you the
Okay.
answer. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chris,
Yeah, so I'll be really quick because I know we have SGH waiting in the wings tonight. So two things I want to touch base on, Andy and Chris. So as part of that FF&E review, Chris, have your team sort of wrapped up looking at assembly spaces and movable furniture in the realm of any wall protection that we may be needed to be adding to the project? Or are you still in the midst of looking at that?
We had someone looking at that last week. I haven't touched base with them this week, but we have someone looking at that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
I mean-
on our radar and we've been, pushing on it.
Okay, so I'm hoping and sort of expecting column, wall corners, wall protection, chair rails, that kind of thing that you guys feel is necessary really ought to kind of go into that FF&E package. And then my only other comment, and it's really both to you and Andy, is on the mock-up. I mean, it's disappointing the glass is coming so much later. I mean, we had originally talked about October. It's coming November, December. Andy, maybe if you or Chris could just confirm, but we're still getting the glazing in time to get the mock-up done. We'll have, right? We're going to have curtain
Yes.
punched openings in the mock-up. We'll be able to
Yes.
inspect that, do pressure tests. I've been on jobs where we literally were building the mock-up after the glass was already going in the building. And I know, Chris, you've had the same experience. It drives me crazy, but it's happened more times than I care to admit. I just don't
Yep.
want it to happen on this job.
Yeah, from everything I've heard from Brait, that we're gonna get the windows in this week, next week, and the curtain walls to follow shortly. So that'll give us enough runtime to December.
That's good, because I don't want the building to be the mock-up for the mock-up.
Yeah, totally understand that. We've been there.
Yeah, we've been planning this with the commissioning agent and they agreed to test the mock-up, not the window on the building. So
Okay, thank you.
Don, you still have a question?
Yeah, one of the committee members had asked for us to define what's in FF&E, and maybe Chris can do that so we can get it in the meeting minutes.
There's two Chris's here, but he's on mute, so I'll say
Chris
fixtures,
Sharkey.
furnishing, and equipment.
Yeah, right.
I beat him to it if this was a game show.
Oh, that's fine. Go ahead. You
Um,
got it then.
Yeah.
You better have the
Anything
right
loose.
answer.
Anything that you can kind of move. Anything loose, more or less.
And that includes, by the way, like instructional equipment, right, Chris Sharkey?
Yes.
TVs, projectors, all that
Yes.
is all part
Yep.
of that, whiteboards.
So chairs, tables, desks, and
Yes.
all those things. Yes.
Yep.
Cabinets, storage.
No. So big kind of cabinets are in the base bid. Most of all that is built in, but there will be some loose bookcases and things like that.
Okay, somebody had asked a few weeks ago, so I just thought we'd
Yep.
get it in the record. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think
Great.
the whiteboard and the chalkboard, I mean, not chalkboard, the tackboard are usually base bid.
Those are base bid, but the
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 portable one.
displays, yeah, the displays are going to be equipment.
Yeah, so basically if you flip the building upside down, shake it, anything loose, that's the furniture. FF&E.
It's good.
That's the definition I got.
I like
There
that.
you
It's
go.
good, Andy.
It's fantastic.
Okay, are we all set with Andy?
Jay, would you like me to share the manager's letter for the next
Sure.
item?
Yep.
Hopefully you guys can see that.
Okay.
So yeah, we're just looking for approval on all the payment authorizations for the Lynch Elementary School project, and then the one payment authorization for the high school for SG&H. You can see the totals in front of you. You have all the backup.
Mhm.
Looking for a motion.
And just real quick, Meg, that SGH, so that was like for their time and services over the summer with all the mock-up testing, right?
Correct.
Which
They
we're
have
gonna
further
talk-
scope of services to date, correct?
Yeah. And we'll talk about it in just a moment. I'm happy to make a motion, Jay, to approve the payment authorizations as presented in the manager's letter dated September 9th for the Lynch Elementary School, and the payment authorization for Winchester High School to Simpson, Gumpertz, and Hager as presented.
I'll second that.
All
Yep.
right, roll call, Frank,
Aye.
Lisa,
Yes.
okay. And Todd,
Aye.
Geetha? Geetha?
Sorry, I said aye.
Okay, so,
Yes.
yep.
Okay.
Mark? And Colleen,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
and Emily.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Get that paid. We're gonna let Hill go, and congratulations, Andy, on your wedding. So we just found out the news.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah,
Was it over the weekend or
Congratulations.
last week?
last week.
Very nice.
We would have all
Congratulations.
come, right, guys?
There you go. Was that the job site?
Andy, that's always good news, but given where you were with us a few months ago and what you shared with us, I am super
Yeah.
happy how that story played out.
Gotta tie the knot with my other kidneys.
Yeah, there you go.
Gotta keep it close.
It seems convenient to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Congratulations, Andy.
Yeah, congratulations.
All right, so
Thank
we're all
you.
set with the Lynch. I know we're behind schedule. And you guys can drop off if you want, and we'll jump over to concrete repair. Chris, you want to do an introduction?
Sure, I'll just do real brief introductions. I'm really pleased to have with us tonight from SGH Jenny Grubb. She's a senior project manager at Simpson, Gumpertz, and Hager. We also have Gregory Cohen. He's principal in charge. Some of our veteran members will remember Jenny and Greg have been with us before. They've been working with us on our high school deterioration conundrum at the high school and presenting different options for us. And Jenny's been really close to some of that summer testing of the surface applied corrosion inhibitor that we just paid for, and prepared the report for us. So remind everybody, Jay forwarded the SGH report to everyone prior to the last meeting. So hopefully you've had time to review it. We did get a few questions came in a little late, but I don't know if they're incorporated in Jenny's presentation tonight, but she has absolutely had time to look through those and is prepared to address them. So I think I know Greg's got another client meeting tonight at 7:30, so he may have to drop off, but Jenny has generously agreed to kind of stick with us if we have some prolonged Q&A. So I'd refer you guys back to the agenda tonight. We're kind of looking to give Jenny and Gregory an opportunity to say hi, kind of go through the report, talk about some next steps. And where I think, where Jay and I and Meg really want to end it tonight is we want to talk about action we may take tonight around fall town meeting, and getting some funding for this next stage of work. So I think with that, Jay, I'd like to turn it over to Jenny and Greg. I don't know if Greg's still with us, but welcome.
Yes.
Thank you for the intro, Chris. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, as Chris said, I'm Jennifer Grubb from Simpson Gumbertson Hager. We do what we can to help people protect their buildings and keep them safe. And I'm going to go through pretty briefly a summary of what we've done to date, a brief summary of what we did over the summer with the mock-ups, and then we're going to dive into some questions with answers. Last fall, we did a condition assessment of the first floor slab at the high school. There were cracked and lifted floor tiles, and once the floor tiles were removed, it revealed a corroded reinforcement that was popping up or spalling the concrete. Having said that, it's overall in good condition, with only localized areas of deterioration, which is less than 0.6% of the entire first floor footprint. On the underside, we observed widespread carbonation, which limits the concrete protection of the steel reinforcement against corrosion. And we also observed isolated areas of deterioration. In the spring, we developed 35% schematic design documents, primarily the topside repairs in the building D and E hallways to address those lifted tile areas. And we also discussed options for the underside of the first floor slab. The options we proposed were applying surface applied corrosion inhibitor, periodic surveying, and further investigation. And from our prior discussion with this group, we moved forward with surface applied corrosion inhibitor, and with the plan that this be applied the entire underside of the first floor slab, and follow up with monitoring the performance with periodic surveys. The corrosion inhibitor can slow deterioration, and it retards corrosion in already carbonated concrete, and it can also do so in chloride contaminated concrete, and it helps reduce future concrete repair. The downsides is that because of the large footprint, it's a sizable cost, and while it will slow deterioration on the underside, it likely won't affect the topside deterioration and the lifted tile that you've been seeing. We developed a cost estimate based on the schematic design, with just under 400,000 estimated for the topside repairs and 630,000 estimate for the underside of the first floor slab for applying the surface applied corrosion inhibitor. And I want to note that this total of 1.02 is a construction-only estimate. It does not include engineering fees or project management or internal costs that US Winchester may carry. So over the summer, we looked into the surface applied corrosion inhibitor further, in particular to confirm that the products would be able to reach the depth of the reinforcing steel to be able to provide the corrosion inhibiting protection. So we performed 2 mock-ups, each of a different SASE product, and we applied each product in approximately 100 square foot area. We waited 30 days, which is what's recommended by the manufacturers. And then we collected concrete core samples and performed laboratory testing to assess the depth of the penetration. What we found was that one of the materials did not penetrate very deep at all, so less half an inch, while the other penetrated up to 1.5 inches. So we find that specifically the Cortec MCI 2020 was the product that worked well. We also measured the depth of reinforcement at just a small number of locations. And where we did take the measurements, we saw that the reinforcement was deeper than what we expected. And at those few locations, it was about 1.5 inches deep. But again, the corrosion inhibitor was able to penetrate that deep in 30 days and will probably continue migrating deeper as time goes on. So next steps, as I understand them, is that Chris and I have talked about doing a more detailed visual survey of the top side repair areas to better estimate the costs for the topside repairs. This is our original condition assessment. We did a sounding survey, which is where we dragged chain to listen for delamination, but we weren't able to hear the delamination as different from where the tile is debonded. And we can't do the sounding survey in carpeted areas. So this survey would be a visual looking for lifted tile, bumps in the carpet, where the doors might be starting to get stuck for the lifted concrete. And as Chris alluded to, we understand that you plan to request funding at the fall town meeting, and we're happy to support in whatever way we can. And then I just have the questions that I'll want to run through that you guys had submitted to us. First, can the underside work be done separately from the topside work? The answer is yes. They're not very closely related. The same contractor could do both scopes of work, but they would likely do it with different crews at different times. The surface applied corrosion inhibitor can be applied before or after the topside concrete repairs are implemented. And I understand that you're thinking about applying the corrosion inhibitor during the school year. And this is reasonable because it doesn't involve any jackhammering. The loudest the work would include is the noise of generators and air compressors for them performing the work in the basement. Next, can we define areas of different priority levels and develop add alternates for the underside work? And yes, absolutely. We could prioritize the areas that are over the standing water in the basement. We could deprioritize areas with limited accessibility. And we could also do a survey measuring the reinforcing depths and prioritize large areas with shallow reinforcement. Another question is there an applicable treatment for chloride contaminated concrete? We have been talking about this corrosion inhibitors being applicable for our carbonated concrete on the underside of the slab. Corrosion inhibitors can also be applied for chloride contaminated concrete. And in general, we recommend doing robust concrete repair details for the chloride contaminated concrete. And the new repair material would include a corrosion inhibitor in the mix. We also include treatment of the exposed reinforcing steel to clean it and coat the steel. And it is also possible to add zinc anodes to retard corrosion adjacent to the repair areas. The corrosion inhibitor we would recommend to be applied to the top side of the concrete slab where the concrete slab is exposed. To borrow a phrase from Ms. Nixon, to apply the corrosion inhibitor throughout the entire floor is not, the juice is not worth the squeeze. The cost of removal and reinstallation of all of your finishes, it's not good bang for buck in terms of applying the surface applied corrosion inhibitor on the top side. And next question, what was the reason we selected the B wing for our mock-ups as opposed to the wings D or E where we see the topside deterioration? And is it correct that the wings D and E have standing water with higher humidity? First, for that second question, there is standing water underneath the D wing, but we did not measure the humidity, so you can't comment as to whether the humidity was higher in one area or another. We selected the B wing because for the penetration of the corrosion inhibitor, the controlling factors are the orientation in the application. Are you doing it top side, underside, vertical? And the permeability of the concrete. And the permeability of the concrete is based upon the mix design of the concrete, which we reasonably assume is the same throughout the entire building. So we chose B wing because of its accessibility. It was the easiest one to get to, and the permeability of that concrete should be representative of the rest of the building as well. And the question, is the corrosion inhibitor recommended to be applied using a pressure hose instead of using a roller as was used for the mock-up application? In our slide presentation in May, we showed pictures where the corrosion inhibitor was being applied by spray. I would like to note that our photos were examples only, and the Cortec MCI 2020, which worked so well, can be applied by roller or hand pump sprayer. The power equipment is not required. And we will specify for the future project that the product be applied according to the manufacturer's recommendations. Next, is the corrosion inhibitor recommended to be applied for the wings D and E, even though concrete repairs are proposed for those two wings? And the answer is yes. The repair areas in wings D and E are small compared to the entire footprint of those wings. And we see the carbonation throughout the underside of those wings. So there will be areas outside of the repair areas that will still have carbonation on the underside of the slab. Last three questions. What is the proposed percentage of the area with concrete repairs for the wings D and E? I can tell you that the repair area is a little less than 0.6% of the total first floor footprint. I was not able to calculate what the percentage is just for wings D and E in time for this meeting. But if that's an important piece of information, we can certainly calculate and provide that number. Is it recommended to find out the actual cover of the reinforcement instead of the assumption of 3/4 inches before the application of the corrosion inhibitor? We expected the reinforcement cover to be 3/4 of an inch because that was what was indicated in the original construction drawings. We measured the actual cover of the reinforcement at just a few locations and found the depth to be about 1.5 inches deep. And as a reminder, the Cortec 2020 migrated to 1.5 inches deep. Further measurement of the actual cover may identify large areas for prioritization of the application of the corrosion inhibitor. But it is certainly a reasonable question about measuring before the application of the inhibitor. Last question. What is the repair solution for the continued loss of soil or soil washed at grade beams, especially at wings D and E, based upon our prior condition assessment? In our first condition assessment, we recommended further study of the possible soil loss below the grade beams. And we did survey the grade beams in March of this year, and we didn't see any signs of continuing loss of soil or washout. Based on our observations, we don't believe that the grade beams or the soil below require any remediation at this time. I've gone through a lot of information very quickly. I hope I didn't fly past too fast, but please let me know if you have any questions. Chris.
Yeah, so I just, Jenny, I wanted to really just make an overarching comment for the committee, and it can kind of open up for questions of you. And I know most people were here at the last meeting. For those who weren't, I just want to remind everybody that this project has drawn the attention of the Capital Planning Committee. It was ranked as the #1 priority in town in 2 rounds of ranking. And tonight, possibly actually at this very moment at 7:03, the chair of the Capital Planning Committee, Roger McPeak, is meeting with the select board to talk about capital project priorities. And as a part of that conversation, they're also talking about potentially the use of free cash on top of our building and capital stabilization fund. We just got the numbers in from DOR. Our free cash certification came in. We have over $24 million sitting in the bank in free cash. That far exceeds our free cash policy as a percentage of operating reserves. So the select board has been having some conversation, no commitments yet, around not only supporting some of the priorities that capital planning would typically bring forward, but possibly dipping into that capital piggy bank for some large one-time expenses. It is virtually certain that there is going to be, well, first of all, capital has already shown support for this project, whatever it may become. The select board seems to show support for it as well. What I wanted to briefly do, Jenny, is sort of share with the committee that I have reviewed with you what the schedule is for fall town meeting. I want to remind everybody we need an article for the warrant by September 23rd. That very generically describes the nature of the work and where the money might be coming from. It does not need to include a budget number. The next step in the process is to vote a motion. That typically would be sometime maybe between October 10th or 12th. Meg can correct me if I'm wildly off on that. So we would need to know the number by then. Our inside baseball number that we've been sharing with management and capital up to this point is $1.2 million. So it's that 300-ish that Jenny just shared topside. It's the 600-ish below. And then we've added some allowances for soft costs. Thank you, Jenny. So we've just sort of been saying in town, this could be at least a $1.2 million project. We also believe that, and I think Jenny's confirmed this for us, that to move forward quickly on the underside work, SGH doesn't have a whole lot further to go in terms of putting together a bid set. I mean, there's some specs, there's drawings, there's quite a bit more work involved for the top side. You know, we can see where the concrete is deformed, where you have glossy VCT because it's obvious, it's easy to see. We know we have some carpeted areas where we have deformation because you can see the undercut goes away under the door swing when the door opens. And so we've discussed with SGH the need to, if we wish to move forward, frankly, do some more field verification and some of that topside work. That includes, by the way, meeting with Chris Conway and his team to be sure that we are adequately identifying all those areas that need to be kind of selectively demoed and repaired. So there's a bit of work there as well. So there is support for this project. And when I say support, I mean for funding the whole thing, even if we may find ourselves doing it in 2 phases, you know, with a first bid set for the crawl space work, and then a later bid set for the top side. And I believe, Jenny, you and Greg and your team, you're in the process of putting together a proposal for Meg so that you guys can kind of figure out how much time you need to kind of come out and evaluate that and help us kind of get to a number. We don't need that number to the committee, I would say. We don't need to know this number tonight. We don't even need to know the number on September 23rd, but we will need to know that number kind of by into first week of October-ish, certainly by mid-October. So time is a little tight, but the winds are all sort of blowing in, we have tailwinds on this, not headwinds, to get this work done. So that's very encouraging. That 1.2 number, you know, may go up depending upon what we learn. And to one of the questions from a committee member that Jenny just acknowledged, it might go down because right now Jenny and her team have been carrying, let's say, I'll call it the worst case scenario, which is SACI everywhere, including, I think, 7 or 8% of square footage, Jenny, that you had labeled as inaccessible, because it really wasn't clear how we'd get to it. And I think that was really smart. So, you know, it may be that we come to a recommendation where we're not even applying this to 100% of the slab. So we've got some work to figure out, and we'll talk about this a little more in a few minutes. But I wanted to sort of remind everybody of that context tonight. Where I hope we end it tonight is some discussion with a motion and a vote on some draft language for the warrant for fall town meeting. Meg has, you know, been kind enough to work with me on developing some language that we've also shared with the chair of the capital planning committee and with town management. So folks have seen this, they're comfortable with it, and they may even be discussing it tonight. So several things I'm hoping we can hit, but I wanted to kind of frame that in the big context, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. And Jay, I'll shut up because I really kind of wanted to reserve some time for folks to ask SGH some questions about, you know, their report and their findings.
Sure. Mark, you're up.
First, Jennifer, thanks for the presentation. Very helpful. And thanks for getting ahead of some of those questions that you've already received. It sounds like there's an opportunity to really get a pretty clear and accurate number for the underside treatment relatively quickly. Sounds like the only variable right now is the exact footprint that would be covered if you choose to exclude those quote inaccessible spaces or not. But otherwise it's a product specification and a bid from somebody. So that's good. I don't know if we'd have the opportunity to actually get that number in advance of, you know, mid-October when we need actual numbers. But if it's possible, that would be great, because that would give us a lot more confidence in whatever the total ask is to town meeting, to Chris's point about the warrant article. It sounds like the top side repairs, there are a few more questions and you have to do some more survey work. And so I guess my feeling is do whatever we can to accelerate the underside work costing, and then we'll probably be a little farther behind, it sounds like, for the topside repairs in terms of the exact what we know by the time we have to approve a warrant article. But I'm all for doing both. It just feels like it's okay to somewhat decouple them, in the sense that we should really try to get as accurate an answer as we can on the SACI on the underside of the first floor slab.
Yes, I don't know that our estimate for the corrosion inhibitor on the underside, I don't think it'll change unless we change the square footage that we're choosing to apply it. Okay. And so that's where we could think about having add alternates for the not very accessible areas or inaccessible areas.
And Jay,
Does that answer?
I know Geeta has her hand up. I should make this important clarification, Mark and others, and I apologize for not saying this sooner. When I talk about this deadline in October for the motion, that's just when you have to figure out how much money you're asking for. However, you can make an amendment to that even on the very night of town meeting. You can make a motion from the floor to amend the number. And if you're asking for less, everybody loves that. So my point is, even if we have to be sort of conservative on what we think the scope and cost is topside, town meeting is not happening, for a few more weeks afterwards. And so if we're in a position, whether it's on the floor of town meeting or with an amendment, in paper form on the table outside that says, hey, Article 24 has been revised, we're actually now asking for $200,000 less. No one will complain about that. Better to ask for more than you need and then revise it lower than the other way around.
So just maybe I got confused a little bit on what the scope was intended to be or how it was intended to be defined. Is the base design to be the corrosion inhibitor to most of the underside of the first floor slab with an add alternate to include areas that you had identified as more difficult to reach?
Yes, I would say so.
And the 630 includes everything.
Yes.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Geeta?
Yeah, thank you, Jen, for answering the questions. But the quick question along the line Mark was asking, could you please clarify in terms of the base bid, is it correct to assume, whether the number is 630 or what, that would include the underside area that we can access, plus that would also include the repairs where we need it? Do you see it that way too? Like not just applying the corrosion inhibitor, the base bid would also include the 0.6% area that would need the repairs.
Okay,
No?
that 0.6% that require repairs is what we're referring to as the topside concrete repairs. And that could be together
Not
in
the
the same.
underside areas. I thought there were some pictures on the underside, there were exposed reinforcement too.
No, you're right. My language is being imprecise. I refer to it as topside repairs, but they're really full depth repairs of the slab, so that we would repair where we see underside deterioration. They would likely come and do the demolition from the top side because we're doing the full depth of the slab. So when I refer to the topside concrete repairs, that's really sort of topside and underside deteriorated areas.
I see. All right. My other question, would you say the application of the corrosion inhibitor and the following survey that you presented on the first slide goes together? So in terms of the October town meeting approval, would the cost estimate include that future survey cost as well? Or what do you think, Chris? No?
Well, if that's for me, so to the extent we're doing ongoing surveys, I defer to Meg on this. I mean, I don't think that would typically be included in a funding request of this nature of town meeting. That might be something you could roll into an operating budget. I mean, it depends upon the scope and the cost.
At least the first year
testing.
survey, would it be critical, sir, Chris? Like, would it be part of the application?
I think information that SGH needs, for instance, like to confirm the depth of reinforcing, any areas where they're not sure, that testing perhaps would need to be done. But I thought if you're asking about ongoing testing, that would, I think, not be a part of this.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
But Jenny, it sounds like you were saying in your presentation, based on the CDs, you were looking for 3/4, and then in some areas you found an 1.5 inches of rebar embedment. Is that right? I mean, I know it's where you happen to core, but you found more favorable results in terms of concrete coverage than not.
Yes. Yes. And at those locations where we found the 1.5 inches, that's deeper than the carbonation front that we found with our concrete cores. So it would, it's very favorable.
And the inhibitor penetrated 1.5 inches
Yes.
as well, which suggests where it can get ahead of that front.
Yes. Carbonation fronts move very slowly. It was built in the 60s, so we're a 60-year-old building, and it got to approximately 3/4 or an inch deep. So you can do the math pretty quickly in your head to get another 1/2 inch deep. That could be decades.
So what are you implying, Jen, in the mock-up application? Yes, we did the additional magnetic field testing and we got the good news. So are you implying that before the application of the inhibitor, we have to do the magnetic field, or recommending for the entire area? We don't need to take that.
I would say it's the surface applied corrosion inhibitor will hinder corrosion and deterioration.
Yeah.
And it's a very good proactive step to take. But we could do further investigation and do further study to understand better the range of depths of the reinforcing. We know that at those few locations, it was 1.5 inches deep, but we also know in the areas where we saw the underside deterioration, the rebar was shallower. So it varies. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to, I'm just trying to, I get the answer. But maybe last question, why only the one applicator wanted to be tested in their lab and the other applicator that you can test it? Just curious. What difference would have made if you have tested both samples at your lab?
Well,
I mean, I was just curious.
It's the one that tested at the manufacturer's lab. They
Yeah.
have a proprietary procedure that they don't share their exact laboratory procedure because it's proprietary exactly what the chemical ingredients of the inhibitor are. The other manufacturer is looser about it. I can't say anything other than that.
So may I ask you this way then, if we do ask for a proprietary item, then we pay more?
No, they both have the same approximate cost estimate.
Okay.
I don't know what the exact dollar is per gallon, but both manufacturers quoted to us an approximate dollar per square foot per application.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mark?
Geetha, to your question about additional testing, I'm not sure there's any additional value to doing more testing. I mean, if we've got pretty good coverage and it penetrates well, and we're doing topside repairs for visible problems, that feels like a good combination, and more information doesn't necessarily give us a different result than that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if it's 2 inches, if we measure whether we can wing it to postpone it, but I'm just, okay.
Richard?
Thanks, Jay. I was wondering if the source of the chloride contamination in the topside deterioration has been determined. And is it important to figure out where the chloride contamination came from? Or
Well, no, we haven't figured out the source of the chloride contamination. And would be important if the chloride contamination is continuing. For example, where we do a lot of our concrete repairs in parking garages and cars bring in road salt laden water on their wheels, and that brings in the salts, the chlorides, and to the concrete. And knowing that that's where the chloride contamination is from allows us to do treatments to the parking garages to help protect against that water ingress, some waterproofing. But we haven't seen any indication of where the chlorides came from it was in building D. We sort of ruled out that it's likely not from the cleaning equipment. Chris Conway clarified that they don't have the water on the floor for very long, and they use the same procedure throughout the school. So it could have happened many years ago. It could have happened before the renovation. We don't know. So I don't have a very good answer for you there.
But it's your opinion that the carbonation, on the other hand, on the underside, stems from the original building in the 70s.
Yes, carbonation fronts usually move very slowly. It takes a long time for them to get to the depth that they have reached.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add to that real quick, Jade? I think Jenny mentions in her report, Rich, that given the time frame when the building was built, we didn't understand as much about the dangers, the risks of chlorides in water. And it's entirely possible that sections of the school could have been built with chloride contaminated water, either in adhesives or admixtures or what have you. And what we're seeing is just a long delayed consequence of that. In limited areas. We just sort of didn't have the awareness in terms of building science then that we have today. Is that fair, Jenny?
Yes, back in the day, oftentimes there were chlorides just mixed in with the new concrete, and we knew better today. We don't think that exact thing happened at this in this hallway, because we would have expected to see chloride contamination at the full depth of the slab, where we only saw chloride contamination of the near surface of the slab. But to Chris's point, it could have been a topside adhesive, it could have been a topside water spill that was left standing for a long time. We're not sure. We did not see anything in the high school that made us think that it was continuing.
So Jay, if it's okay with you, what I'd like to do, and we can certainly jump back to Jenny's report, at any moment actually, and I don't want Jenny to go away, but if it's okay with you, Jay, I wanted to just bring up our agenda real quick, and be sure we don't lose sight of what we have to sort of go through tonight. So I hope you guys can see this. So SGH has made their report. I think I shared with you guys. There's strong support for this project. Top project ranked by capital planning. Typically capital would be bringing forward projects. We recommend projects to management. They show up on the warrant at town meeting, and they're funded through the building or capital stabilization fund. In this case, it would be the building stabilization fund. Jenny and her team have been asked to kind of put together a proposal so they can help us and Meg, kind of drill down on our comfort level, around that 1.2, and do we need to look a little more carefully at the topside work? We don't have that proposal yet. We've kind of thrown a lot at Jenny and Greg, but Meg, my understanding is we have some dollars left that could fund, a reasonable amount of work. And so while we do not have, a proposal to vote on tonight, I know, Jay, we're not meeting again until the 23rd. I don't think it would be in our interest to wait until the 23rd to tell Jenny and her team they could come take another look at the high school. And so, if it's okay with you, Jay and Meg, is it okay for me to ask, is there a consensus if this is a modest amount of fee and it's something, Meg, you can work with dollars remaining, that we could authorize you to sort of engage Jenny and her team, and we sort of deal with this maybe formally when we come back on the 23rd in terms of an approval. Is that out of line for me to make that suggestion, Meg or Jay?
No, I agree with it. We have to keep it going. It's not going to be
Yeah.
outrageous.
Okay. So Jenny, you probably don't know what that number is. It's not a huge number, but I think our interest is in kind of just keeping the ball rolling here. And I let Meg be the one to kind of communicate with you about the dollars we have remaining. But just really appreciate you and your team willing to kind of jump into this and help us drill down a little more on the number. What I'll do now, Jay, again, and if anybody ever wants to kind of go back to something, say so. I want to pull up another document, and I'll do this very quickly. Jenny's not actually had an opportunity to see this. Let me pull this up. Hopefully you guys can see this. So this is a draft article that was prepared at the request of management. They reached out on Friday. This draft reads, to see if the town will vote to appropriate or transfer a sum of money for the repair and remediation work associated with the Winchester High School concrete deterioration in adjacent spaces, including final design and engineering services, and to determine whether this appropriation or transfer shall be made from free cash, the Building Stabilization Fund, or the Capital Stabilization Fund established under Chapter 69 of the Acts of 2002, or any other available source, or take any other action in relation thereto. So what I would say to the committee is, for a typical capital article on the funding line, it would simply say to determine whether the transfer is made from the Building or Capital Stabilization Fund, because that's it. It's really all capital works with. As I said earlier, because we now know we're sitting on $24 million in free cash. And when we have an excess of free cash, we like to put it towards one-time things, not operating budgets. That's a no-no in the eyes of our bonding agencies, our bond rating agencies, excuse me. We've got more options on the table in terms of funding. So this draft refers to free cash as an option, refers to the stabilization funds, and at the request of the chair of the Capital Planning Committee, the line that says any other available source is there because in some instances, the Capital Planning Committee actually uses funds to bond projects, or there may be an interest in bonding the project. The point being that the article is meant to have the most broad language about the nature of the work and where the money's coming from. The motion, it will always be more specific. It'll be specific as to the funding that we're looking for, the amount. It may be more specific or restrictive as to the funding source. And this is really something that management will talk to the select board about with the input of council and Meg. And so this is kind of intentionally very broad, but we had the opportunity to review this with Meg today. I know the town manager and assistant town manager have seen it. It has the blessing of the chair of the Capital Planning Committee, and then this will come back to Capital Wednesday night. This is proposed as a joint article you see there at the bottom between Capital Planning and the EFPBC. So this is really, I think this is kind of important for us to get to this tonight because Capital meets Wednesday, and it would be helpful to to get this to management and put it on the draft warrant for review.
I would ask that you not vote this specific language, however, and because we have already made suggested edits, Chris, not to the, just legalese and a few other words in there that give it a little bit more leeway on moving forward. So just vote on the concept and allow town staff to finalize the language.
That's great. And I think what we've done before, Meg, is we voted to submit draft language. We call it draft language for the warrant with the understanding that management reserves the right to make edits after review with council. I think that's kind of what we've said, but we've done that even at the Capitol table. Would something like that be okay?
Hey, with me. Yep.
Okay with me also.
If that was a motion, I would move it.
Well, I'm not going to make the motion, but I just want to say, like, so here, this, everybody understands, this is draft. It says at the top, this is a draft. I think the motion would be to, submit this as draft language for the fall town meeting warrant, co-sponsored with the capital planning committee, with the understanding that management and town council have the right to make edits as they see fit, but it does adequately describe the scope of the work we're looking to accomplish. I think that would be the motion.
So
So
moved.
that was the motion. So yeah,
So we'll
Or
go with
second.
Frank and
moved.
then Richard.
Richard could have.
All right, Richard, then who's the second?
I'll second.
Mark? Okay, roll call. Lisa,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Todd,
Aye.
Geetha.
Yes.
John's not here. Colleen,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Emily.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Hey, just for the record, I'm also in favor.
All right, because you're
I
right.
mean, I don't mind giving up the motion, but
No, I
I'd
hear
like to be
you.
on the
Sorry
record
about
to
that.
support.
That's where you draw the line.
That's it right there, man.
Go back and check that off. There you go.
Jay,
And Jay?
before we let her go, I just want to say thank you, Jenny, for your patience tonight and hanging on for us, and how thorough you've been. We've thrown, we've given you information like through a fire hose here recently with all the questions and everything. So I'm just very appreciative for everything your team has been doing, and would just ask you work with Meg, so we kind of keep the ball rolling here as we try to figure out if 1.2 is the right number. Does that number go up? Does it go down? And so forth. We've got kind of a short runway here.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate the ability to come and work with you. And Meg will try to get you a proposal by the end of the week.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving on to gymnasium. So this is a scope discussion, I guess. We'll start off with that. Meg, do you want to cover your suggestion?
Yeah, I'm trying to find what I sent you. Yeah, so what we're, sorry.
Meg, do you want me to pull up your email from earlier? The one with the numbers, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, that'd be great. So, as you all know, we went out to bid on the floor, came in over budget. The low bidder was under budget, but they pulled out. And the second low bidder, we performed a reference check on them, and they had very good references. They're very qualified. I contacted them and the filed subbidder, and they're willing to hold their bid until after fall town meeting, when we could award a contract if the additional funds were appropriated at town meeting. So we've had a couple meetings back and forth with the members of the select board and Jay and Chris and Frank, and we've decided that we would like to move forward with that avenue. We think that's our best bet. It's a sure number. We don't expect that we would get better numbers if we went out to bid again, unless we change the scope of work. So in this email here that I sent out today, we have approximately $2.4 million currently appropriated. And we have the lowest, I'm calling them the low bidder now because the other bidder pulled out. So $2.7 million is their base bid. There were two alternates, alternate 1, alternate 2. I'm recommending that we move forward with alternate 1, which is the work that was requested by the town clerk to give power and make it easier during the elections. As everybody may know, all elections are going to happen in the gymnasium And that's been in place for a couple of years now. So she really wanted that to be easier for her to operate that. So $2.74 million is what we know this project will cost us. If we add a 10% contingency, it will be $3 million. $3,014,000. If we add 15% contingency, it would be $3,151,000. It is my recommendation, given the scope of work here, given the issues related to the project, to the gymnasium itself. It's an existing space. It's going to be an occupied space. That we go with keeping alternate 1, so that we would award a contract for $2,740,000. And we carry with that a 15% contingency, so that we go to town meeting and we ask for it. We can round it down to make it a little more palatable, maybe to $670,000. So that's my recommendation. That's what I would do. I would hesitate to move into this project asking for anything less than that, because if we don't spend it, we just revert it back to where it came from. So we don't want to have to go back and ask for any additional funding. ARPA funds run out. If we don't award a contract by the end of this calendar year, we lose those ARPA funds. So it's not like we get to go back to the pool of ARPA funding. So I guess the decision was made that a warrant article would come out of the EFPBC as well for this project. So I think Chris is looking to have similar authorization. I'm not sure we've typed anything up yet, Chris, for that. We got to work on that.
Yeah, this one's, yeah, you're right. So Meg, this one's a little looser only because, I know the last time the select board met, I believe, the town manager shared with the board that the low bidder had pulled their bid, the next lowest bidder was over. It was kind of an update. I didn't hear any clear or convincing direction about what the board wanted to do about that. And so I think in the interest of, again, keeping sure we're moving, because there's a deadline coming, we did originally put forward the article. It was co-sponsored with the select board. We could certainly put one forward requesting additional funding out of free cash. And so there's no specific article for us to look at tonight. I think the goal on the agenda for tonight was to look for the committee's support to essentially to authorize us, Meg, to draft an article with your input that kind of follows your recommendations here that we could put forward to management, and that Jay, you could certainly, once that gets kind of developed, you could forward it back to the committee. The committee would have the opportunity to see that. We meet on the 23rd, which is the date it technically closes. But if there are any issues with it, on the 23rd, we can talk about it. If we need to make an adjustment, we can. So yeah, that you're absolutely right, Meg. The issue is, will the committee support authorizing us to develop an article seeking supplemental funding out of free cash to close the gap? The only other quick thing I would say, Meg, I'm not sure you mentioned alternate 2, but just so everybody understands, alternate 1, when Meg talks about power for elections, we already own in the base bid overhead power reels at either end of the gym on what we call the short walls. So power would actually come from above, no wall outlets, no floor receptacles, which are a pain in the butt for, maintenance and floor replacement. Plus you have bleachers there anyway. So the idea is we have overhead power reels that would provide direct power to the voting machines. What the town clerk had requested later in the summer was, and you may have seen those of you who turned out among the 8 or 9% who actually voted in the state primary. So the wardens now, when you go to check in and present yourself, they actually have little computers on their desks. They need power, and those folks would actually be kind of in the middle of the gym floor. And again, to avoid floor receptacles and all that entails, immediately and long term, the clerk had requested we provide supplemental power, meaning additional overhead power reels. So those are the reels that are in ad alternate 1, so that Mary Ellen gets all the power she needs from above. Ad alternate number 2 was the 4 anti-stratification fans in the quadrants of the gym, which had been a request that came from the school after following our community meeting. So TAP A and their engineers have designed all this. We have a good idea of the scope of it. And Meg, I don't have that number in front of me. I guess I could go get it, but that was another chunk of money. I think, was it 53?
It's like 55,000.
Yeah.
55,000. You know, I think some of us just felt like there's a reason you put something in an ad alternate, and it's because it's not in the base. And typically if the number comes in below budget, you grab the ad alternates. We didn't really feel it was right to go fighting for this money for ad alternate 2, because if we felt strongly about it, it would just be in the base. But Meg, you can correct me if I'm wrong. My sense is if we move forward on this project with a contingency and there's money remaining, even though we may not know until March or April that we have money left over, if we're in a position to put the fans in, we can certainly entertain that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know Mark's waiting, but I just wanted to chime in on one item. Meg brings up a real good point about the 15%. There's one item in the bid documents, which is we're getting 2 new hoops and we're relocating 10, I believe. There's no, we don't know what's going to happen relocating those 10. If they were to be replaced, they did unit cost them at, I think, $20,000 a piece, something like that.
This contractor.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, they're old and we really need this extra contingency just in case something happens with those. And then maybe they all move and they're all great. But Mark, you had a
Exactly.
question?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm absolutely in support of moving forward with requesting the additional funding and giving town staff and council leeway to define the language of that, but this project will not get cheaper. And to Meg's point, I doubt we're going to get better numbers if we pull it and go back out to bid. So it definitely feels like the best thing to do here is get the article for a town meeting to request the additional funding, and I'll leave it up to you all what you think the right value for the contingency is. But it sounds like, based on what Jay's saying and what Meg has already said, that probably going with a little higher number for the ask is safer, and so that we don't come back asking for more funds, and it also increases the likelihood that there's an opportunity to use leftover funds, if any, to pursue that ad alternate 2, which has already been designed, so it has a pretty clearly defined scope.
So Mark, if that was a motion, I'll second it.
Okay. We'll do it that way.
And can Jay, I want to remind everybody, so, remember, it's just the article that we need by the 23rd. So we got really still a bit more time to kind of talk through what the numbers should be and how we get there. And that really actually will come later in October. And that also would actually come back to the EFPBC. That's something we need to look at and vote on.
So that was my question, Chris. Would this still be a joint article by the EFPBC and Select Board, or are you just looking at us we going alone? Would it be more encouraging that we go together? And then my second question is, yes, I strongly support 15% contingency. Having said that, can we drag along alternate 2 just in case there's leftover money, then we can get it done? Not asking for more money, but have it there. I don't know.
So
if we are going through the project and we find, and it works out, with their sequencing of work, we could add it in, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Geeta, to your question about sponsorship, it absolutely would be great if the select board co-sponsors, but and I don't know that they won't. I just think, given that they were kind of digesting this information at their last meeting, they just kind of weren't in a position to I guess, definitively take a position. I haven't heard that they won't. I'd be surprised if they weren't supportive. So I think the intention here is to kind of get the ball rolling. If it would be fantastic if they would jointly sponsor, you're right, they jointly sponsored the original. My only other comment, and it's why I'm comfortable kind of getting rid of that alternate two, is I have a sinking feeling that I may be one of the people up there asking town meeting for more money. And it's never a pleasant thing to go through. And, it's my preference would be to ask for a number that starts with a 5 than ask for a number that starts with a 6, because, everybody has their limit, right? The more you're asking for, the harder the sell is. So I hope we have their support, and I think we have some more work to do on the numbers. I would also just add quickly, Jay, Jay's aware of this, that there's a private group that's expressed some interest in possibly making a contribution towards the project. That's great, but if that's going to happen, they kind of need to come forward and say so, and say how much. That might be taken into consideration. There's also been increased interest in some fundraising for this project. That's happened before. Jay, Brendan, some of you, and you, Geetha, and Don, some of you will remember there was a public-private partnership on the renovation of Manchester Field. I think that was 1/3 private, 2/3 town money, or vice versa. But either way, it was a huge amount of money that was raised privately, and there's strong interest in groups to contribute. So whatever number we come to, let's say by October, if there should be some fundraising exercise and there's a motion on the floor of town meeting to reduce the number because somebody's raised a bunch of money, people will only love to hear that. That's not a problem.
So we still have the motion by Mark and second by Chris. Any other questions? Okay, we'll do a roll call. Frank?
Aye.
Lisa?
Yes, and this does make sense, guys. I really support this a lot because I think of the accessibility that needs to happen in that area.
Thank you, Lisa. Brendan?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Geetha?
Aye.
Colleen?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And Emily?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll get it drawn up. Next item is just the meeting, next meeting dates. We have the 23rd. Also, I'll just draw out the other dates we're thinking to see how it works towards the end of the year, but October 7th and the 21st. And then that moves into November 4th and the 18th. But we'll discuss it again on the 23rd, but in case anyone wanted to get them out there.
And then Jay, will you stay in touch with the committee about any potential for an on-site visit?
Yes.
At Lynch?
Yeah, as soon as that slab on grade, I think, and we have temp lights, like Meg said, it's safe. We should try to let everyone especially get the magnitude of it. I know probably people have been seeing social media and stuff that this thing's bigger than the high school and all these other comments that are thrown around there. So it would really be good to walk through there and see what it's all about.
Would you entertain the contractor to come to us for one meeting or no? It's been 1 year now.
Come to our meeting?
Yeah, just.
If we had an
No,
agenda that we
typically.
needed them,
Alright.
we've done that before, so.
Okay.
And maybe we meet at the trailer on
They
site.
would be there. Yeah, they would be there for a site visit for
Yeah.
sure. They would want to be there. Yeah.
So maybe we could do an early meeting and meet in the trailer on one night, something like that. Help them out a bit. But we do want to see the site. Okay. Anything else?
7:49, happy to make a motion to adjourn, Jay.
All right.
Second.
Second. Yeah.
A lot of seconds.
I know.
I think the bird, Don, I think I heard the bird seconded the motion.
Yeah, we really blew
It
this
was the
schedule.
bird, sorry.
Oh, that's Linda, Elisa.
Yeah,
Frank?
that's my parrot, sorry.
Yes.
All right, Lisa?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
It's good to have everyone. Todd?
Yes.
Geetha?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Mark? Yep. Richard?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And Emily?
Yes.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Overload
Good night,
that, but
everyone.
Night,
have a
guys.
good week.